Good. Me too.
All right. Well, welcome to our discussion of indigenous earth mounds
Yes.
with Darwin
Welcome.
Finn.
Yes,
Okay.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, please.
Me, Darwin Fiddler Hyakamoto, also known as Executive Director of PAZA True Life. And before we begin, we would like to start with a prayer. So, ha madaka pi takashla makantan kanushapo. Jahed lived for our relatives that lived long ago, who are still with us in spirit today. You know how we're going to come back to our circle again to remind us and walk with us into the future for that protection, the things of what the mounds are there for, and our interpretations and our medicine to come back home to Mother Earth. Wapulatamka, ha, adakiase.
Shumigwish.
You want me to
This
read
I
this?
think is I think I wrote this down because I think you said it. What you said, think of the mounds like a baby. Dene, right? Birthing inside
Oh,
them.
Mm-hmm.
What
yes.
did you mean by that?
Uh, the um, well, you got to take care of it because right now a lot of people are really trying to the developers and everybody's trying to destroy it now. Like like actually push through it, put the pipelines through it. You know, but really, it's everything that happens within that mound. There's different mounds that you put together. It's like if a interpretation of the birthing centers,
Mm.
or the what do we call it? Like the where the doulas get together in the Hope Southwest area. If you go in those different areas, you see that same structure, and that's what they go into. They build it and then they go into that. So kind of same principle. What you see inside is where you get all your nutrients, just like a baby, like a corn. You get all the things you need that's supposed to be in there for you. You take that and then you walk your trail outside the mounds into where direction you may be going.
I love that analogy of thinking of birthing and also holding a repository of the past and holding of the future, right?
Yes.
Both within the mounds, and you're right. We could talk a little bit about the destruction today. We wanted to follow up. We had such a good talk last Tuesday
Mm,
at the Ojibwe College LCO extension online program on terracing, the
mm.
indigenous art of earth contouring and terracing, and we mentioned mound building. So here we are. Um, we know that there are three primary periods of native mound building in North America, long before white settlers. Um, the Adena Hopewell, and the Mississippians, which we'll focus on today, which are the last and built the largest ancient city in North America, in Cahokia, which we'll also look at today.
I love it.
Yeah. So this is the range, yeah, of the mound building civilizations, and the mention of the Olmecs in Mexico, but the Adenas, which would be closer to you guys,
Yeah.
right? And then the Mississippians and the Hopewells also closer to you guys, and kind of like the Ohio Valley,
Yeah.
Mm.
West Virginia, and Western Pennsylvania.
Mm.
Um, the Mississippians, and maybe one you guys could read this.
Okay. I'll read it. So the mound builders, the Mississippians, Mississippian culture lived in the Mississippi Valley, Ohio, Oklahoma, and surrounding areas. The three sisters, corn, squash, and beans, were the three most important crops. Spanish explorer Hernando de Soto brought diseases and cultural changes that eventually contributed to the decline of many Mississippian cultures.
Mm.
So we're talking a lot about the Mississippi with the Great River, right?
Mhm.
And the extensive influence of the Mississippians, tribally and culturally. There's another map.
Mm.
What do you guys notice?
But
See,
the Mills Lake community of
lot.
Odessa, northern Michigumi, yeah, the whole line again, the applications and that and our
Yeah.
families.
They say the Mississippian culture spanned to the Atlantic, up north to my area, Great Lakes, into the Rockies, because of what they found that was being traded.
Yeah, yes, this is where the Lakota at that time was the nation started to they call it the Peace Walker, and
Mm.
he was a young boy when he started from the north part of Canada, and he came down to walk, and he gathered things, and it took him a long time, most of his life, and then he came around the circle, and it became that what we see here.
The Mississippian period lasted from approximately 800 to 1540 CE, so hundreds of years.
Mm.
It's called Mississippian because it began in Mississippi River Valley between St. Louis and Vicksburg. There were other Mississippians as the culture spread across modern-day U.S. There were large Mississippian centers in Missouri, Ohio, and Oklahoma. A number of cultural traits are recognized as being characteristic of the Mississippians. Although not all Mississippian people practice all the following activities, they were distinct from their ancestors in adoption of some of them. So here's some of the traits. And we're talking 800 to 1540, that's when DeSoto comes.
Mm-hmm.
And indirectly brings in the demise
Mm.
with the diseases, right? Of this great culture, but they existed before 800. Just that's when they really start to flourish. Maria or Kel, you want to read again?
Oh yeah, the mound builders, the Mississippians, Mississippian culture constructed hundreds of temple, effigy, fortresses, and observatory mounds from the flood loam of the Mississippi River in tributaries. The earthen hills contain burials, funerary objects, iconographic artifacts. Many descendants of the Mississippian culture view the mounds as sacred, and some tribes perform ceremonies at the ancient mounds to this day. Yep. The mounds were built of rich, humus, and agricultural lowlands. Yep. And starting in 19th century, there were restored farm fields. Yep. Canals, roads, and pot hunters. Today, looting and merchandise, agricultural erosion, urban sprawl, tourism, off-road vehicles, and highway construction continue to diminish the mounds for future generations.
We don't really know what we have here.
Mm.
People travel to Mexico to see the Aztec and Toltec, and but we don't realize what we have here yet.
Yeah, they don't realize this is why they keep on saying, on what it doesn't matter where location, West Coast, they want to have the ego encounter concept. But even this other gentleman that called me a couple of days ago asking about these kind of things, he never knew that the mounds were there. And I'm saying, like, well, how do you can't just partake, certain things when you have to have the whole picture
Mm-hmm.
and why that is and why you continue. Then they're, and why that's important. All we can do now is trying to do the best way I can.
Try to do to raise awareness. This is what we're kind of trying to do with this program, and hope that people who are watching will spread the word. And also, please contact Ellen and Maria if you have a topic you're interested in. Dell's trying to change the consciousness about what we have here in North America. This is a bowl, so this would be about 100 years before DeSoto. We do have some artifacts. They were really artisans. This is kind
look
of
at that. Yes.
yeah, this is kind of cool too. I skipped ahead way too much, but Maria, could you read this for
Sure.
us, please?
The construction of large, truncated earthwork pyramid mounds or platform mounds. Such mounds were usually square, rectangular, or occasionally circular. Structures, domestic houses, temples, burial buildings, or other, were usually constructed atop of a mound. Maize-based agriculture. In most places, the development of Mississippian culture coincided with adoption of comparatively large-scale, intensive maize agriculture, which supported larger populations and craft specialization. The adoption and use of
Riverine.
riverine or more rarely marine shells are tempering agents in their shell-tempered pottery. Widespread trade networks extending as far west as the Rockies, north to the Great Lakes, south to the Gulf of Mexico, and east to the Atlantic Ocean. The development of the chiefdom or complex chiefdom level of social complexity.
Mm. So, some things we know that they were incredible artisans, and that we know that they were using shells
Wow.
in their pottery and their crafts. It was a maize-based culture. I skipped ahead there a minute ago, but corn introduced to Illinois 1,000 years ago. So it's not an invention of white people.
Yay!
Was the Mississippians' main food. It could be dried and stored to provide food for the difficult winter months and seed for spring planting. Corn reduced the need to travel in order to obtain food during the winter and enabled Mississippians to establish more permanent homes. They dried their corn, stored them in pits they dug into the ground. They also stored squash and dried seeds in these pits. So what we now think of maybe as a root cellar or seed drying, they were doing this for hundreds of years and flourishing and expanding as a culture and population. Del, I know you smiled about this. You want to read this for us?
Yeah, this is really amazing. Corn cobs were tied together and lowered into the pit. The bottom sides of the pit were lined with the cobs. Then squash, bags of beans and squash seeds and loose corn were added.
It is amazing.
Same thing like the womb. You put in so protect it, then you lay it ground. So this is right now we're making that transition again back into the womb. And I was saying earlier, we have to get back into that because that's we're gonna have so we can be protected with this cold weather, this freeze that these things that's about to happen.
The climate instability. So this was not done with machinery. It was not done with computers. It was not done. This was a wisdom that grew and knew how to sustain itself and knew to dry
Yeah.
and store in the earth where the temperature is not a lot of fluctuation.
Yes.
It's brilliant. It is like the womb. If to be honest, if you ask most people now, like, what would you do if you didn't have food over the winter, like it didn't come in on a truck?
Yeah.
Or a train or a plane, what would you do? I don't think they'd be thinking about this.
Oh no, no! I was asking Maria that earlier. She goes, "I don't know what to do. I don't know what's gonna happen." Wow. I said, "Wow."
Right,
I said,
right.
me and
I'm like,
Parker are gonna have to
well,
get that back into the earth.
that's right. Maria, you want to read this for us?
Mississippian cultures, like many before them, built mounds. Though other cultures may have used mounds for different purposes, Mississippian cultures typically built structures on top of them. The type of structures constructed ran the gamut: temples, houses, and burial grounds.
It's actually pretty smart
Yeah.
because you're not susceptible to flooding. You have some, you have elevation. So it's actually kind of smart. Del, you want to read this for
Yeah,
us?
Mississippian artists produced unique artworks. They engraved shower pendants with animal and human figures, carved similar objects out of flint. They sculpted human figures and other objects in stone. Potters molded their clay in many shapes, sometimes decorating them with painted designs. Mississippian underwater panther below.
I gotta say, that's one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen.
It is beautiful.
I can't, I like, when I couldn't take my eyes off of it, this underwater panther. So imagine, this is probably, what, 1,000 years old?
Right?
Yeah, yes. Yeah, this
right?
is where the dances and then how you form that layer. It's also symbolizing the way how you put things together. So it's giving that teaching tool to the world.
Hmm. So they weren't just building mounds, but they were building a culture too.
Yeah.
Here again is the area of influence. We're going to talk about Cahokia, primarily in southern Illinois.
Hmm,
Um,
okay.
but you know, every green dot
Mm,
represents a town or a mound center.
mm,
Mhm.
It's unreal. How extensive.
yeah.
And that's the same area where Tecumseh was in that area too as well.
Mm-hmm.
That area.
Mm-hmm. Maria, can I ask you to read again?
The Spanish explorer Hernando de Soto, 1539 to 43, lived with and spoke to many Mississippian cultures. After his contact, since the Mississippians lacked immunity to new infectious diseases such as measles and smallpox, epidemics caused so many fatalities that they undermined the social order of many chiefdoms. Some groups maintained an oral tradition link to their mound building past, such as the late 19th century Cherokee.
Mhm.
Other Native American groups, having migrated many hundreds of miles and lost their elders to disease, did not know their ancestors had built the mounds dotting the landscape. This
Mhm.
contributed to the myth that Native Americans were not the mound builders.
Mhm.
Yeah, something, huh?
I think that I was watching Leonard Nimoy did Ancient Mysteries, and that was
Mm,
brought up pretty early in the program when he talked about the Mound Builders North America, that there was a myth perpetuated by whites
Yeah.
that Native Americans could not have built these mounds.
mm,
They were too sophisticated. That was the myth, and that it had to be some other culture, that Europeans had been here before,
oh, Lord.
that people had migrated from Mexico. They simply would not accept. So that cultural, disconnection and is awful. But
Hmm.
I don't know how many Native Americans realize their ancestors are mound
Mound
builders.
builders. Hmm.
Well, in a way, Native people, if you see Native kids get together, you go to the beach or the young kids, they remember, they don't know why they do it, but what they do right away, they eat that dirt and then they also start putting things together in a certain kind of design.
That's really cool.
Mm,
That's really cool. So DeSoto had an effect for sure,
Hmm?
and the chiefdoms, right? So the Mississippian culture starts to disintegrate. The disease is just too great. There's also a drought, and then there's the presence of
It,
Europeans,
yeah.
and then the perpetuation of this myth.
It
mm,
messed up the atmosphere of the general thing because everything was laid out with that certain element that you're missing. That once you take that tree out or that wheat, the thing that where we planted at that time, those certain things are lined up to protect that certain area so you can flourish. But once you take that tree and those things out,
That's right.
it's going to be
Everything falls apart.
done.
This is recommended reading for people. If you want to know a little bit about the extent to which
mm,
this myth undermined Mississippian culture, Native
mm,
American culture, this is from Smithsonian Magazine. White settlers buried the truth about the Midwest's mysterious mountain cities. Pioneers and early archaeologists credited distant civilizations, not Native Americans, with building these sophisticated complexes. And the link is there. And just email
hmm.
Maria if you
Yes,
would
I'll.
like the slideshow or the links. PAZA@gmail.com.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Um,
Yes.
but good reading if you wanna find out,
Mm,
get a starting point to understand like how bad of a PR job it was, so
hmm.
to speak. Um, okay, Adele, you want to read for us?
Cahokia Mounds, the largest Asian city in North America, in southern Illinois, situated along the Mississippi River in Collinsville, an ancient settlement that what we call Cahokia rose to great power between 800 and 1200 CE, nicknamed America's Forgotten City or the City of the Sun. The massive complex once contained as many of at 40,000 people and spread across nearly 4,000 acres. The most notable features of the site are handmade earthen mounds which house temples, political buildings, and burial pits. Chokio mounds are a testament to the highly organized culture of the early Mississippian people who built the largest city in pre-Columbian North America.
Mm,
So 4,000 acres,
wow,
40,000 people.
it's incredible.
Incredible, right?
Really?
And I don't ever remember being taught this in history
No,
in school.
no.
No.
Yeah. Mississippian culture peoples flourished between 800 1600, as this one puts it at, and were ancestors to the majority of the American Indian nations living in this region,
Mm,
Mississippi Valley, Oklahoma, Ohio, etc., in the historic era. The historic and modern day American Indian nations believed to have descended from the overarching Mississippian culture include the Alabama, Appalachian,
mhm,
Appalachee, Caddo, Cherokee, Chickasaw, Choctaw, Muskogee Creek, Guale,
Mhm,
mhm,
Chitty,
mhm,
Huma, Kansa, Missouri, Mobilian, Natchez, Osage, Quapaw, Seminole,
mhm.
Tunica, Biloxi, Yamasee, and Yuchi.
Oh
So
my God, yay, polka.
I'm
That
like,
was good.
I heard about, some of these, but I know, I think,
That was good.
yeah. So a lot of tribes
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's
coming.
where the five civilized tribes came in from, and they were like the protectors of all the rest of these. Were like the like close relatives.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And to this day, they're just not finally getting recognized federally. Some of these nations here.
Oh, okay. There's still okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Um Maria, want to read for us?
Sure. Just across the Mississippi River from St. Louis is, how do we
I've
pronounce it?
heard him pronounce it Cahokia.
Cahokia.
Oh, sorry.
No,
Go
that's
ahead.
okay. Cahokia is the largest temple mound site. There are 85 mounds built close together at this site. The largest mound took more than 200 years to build. It covers the size of 15 football fields and stands more than 100 feet high, larger than the Great Pyramid of Egypt.
We all know
Wow.
about the Great Pyramid of Egypt, but we don't know about it's called Monk's Mound.
Wow.
So there's 85 mounds at the Cahokia site, and the largest
Wow.
Monk's Mound is over 100 feet high. And how many generations? 200
Wow.
years. What's that, like 8 generate?
Yeah.
How many generations
Yeah.
bringing dirt and,
Yeah.
building. Just incredible.
Crazy.
So
And
across
this
the
is where the terracing comes in again, because without that terracing, it won't be solid as that to hang strong.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I want you to
Mm,
talk.
mm,
So that it's just another shot of Cahokia. I mean, a drawing.
mm.
Inquiries is kept. This is how we gather at powwows, universities, all sport arenas, and before we gather, this is how we set up. And today's powwow is a prime example, or do a ceremony. That's how we kind of organize ourselves in that such way. Just another way that people are not aware why they're over here at this camp. Some odd reason they always go over here, or you know, this is why.
Mm-hmm. It's like what we're looking at, the powwow.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Um.
Announcer stands, the EMT stand, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Del, you want to read for us?
Mississippian mound builders, Cahokia Mounds, the largest ancient city in North America. Small villages first emerged along Cahokia, Cahokia Creek beginning around 800 CE. So typically, the climate warmed and more rain found in its way to southern Illinois. Thus, villagers could easily grow abundance of food. Yep. As a result, thousands of people migrated to the area around the Mississippi River, and at that time went on the the Mississippians created a unified culture all their own and began building mounds across their land in the 9th century. By about 1000 SC, the Mississippians have built the largest civilization in North America. In fact, some people have referred it to as a kingdom because the Mississippian culture reached up to the Great Lakes, yep, and down to the entire southeastern region of North America. The city became the preeminent center of religious, political power, and may have even controlled a vast trade network, yep, the Rocky Mountains to the Gulf of Mexico. Once the trade routes are still there, it's just that the United States put the highway patrols. If you see the map going this way
Mm,
or this way, it's the same track, same trail. And the north and that Gucci, if you go to that Great Lakes and that side, they call it the sacred turtle circle, they call it, or the circle, that sacred circle, and that's what that beginning is. That's what they signify at their different points to come back down to what direction they need to be.
Mm,
mhm,
hmm
mhm,
So what it all the research suggests too is very peaceful. People
mhm,
are migrating and they're flourishing and they're living in some peace and harmony.
mhm,
And and they're trading, and and they're finding ways to survive. And they do have chiefdoms. There is a hierarchy. There is social stability.
mhm,
There's not there's evidence of weapons, but not wars.
No.
Um, these are the platform mounds, so this is a little different than what you might see at like effigy mounds,
mhm,
or the Hopewell, but because of the mesa-like top.
Yeah,
Um,
because see, they didn't have to worry about water in a certain area, so that's where they brought it back down. They kind of lowered it down because they went in. And if you
mm,
went that section,
mhm,
they went inside the mountain, inside the nature. So if you go in that southern rim or the different areas, their homes are underground, but also within the mountains and the Rockies or the rocks, I guess, if you will. And
mm,
that's evident here how they surpass, because without that like you said, like you see here, that's where you start putting your medicines in, and that all partakes into your mound building, but also your home. But there's so much more to that, as you can step on it, like you see the steps
mm-hmm.
onto the home.
And instead of like what we might be doing now, tearing down a home and building a new one,
mhm,
tearing down a neighborhood, they're building on the old, right?
mhm,
They see life as a progression of
mhm,
building,
Yeah,
taking from the past and building
mhm,
into the future. And there is a mention of terraces down
mhm,
up here.
yeah,
You're right about the terracing coming into play
mhm.
here.
yeah.
Um, okay, Maria?
Sure. Mississippian culture flourished after 700 AD in much the same place as the Hopewell. Like the Hopewell and Adena, they built mounds. However, they did not build burial mounds. Instead, they built temple mounds. These mounds were used for religious and ceremonial purposes. Sometimes high-ranking priests lived on top of them.
Okay, so just a little different use
Mm,
than the Hopewell and the Adena, which we'll talk about another time.
Yeah, but
Um,
that was also our culture too. That's what we call blecha or cry for vision. The medicine people stay in that same place, like sweet medicine being that certain area, Black Elk, for example, or Elk Head, my grandfather would be in those different areas to hold that ceremony. But today, with the law, not say loss, but the misinterpretation and not following traditions, they got people, just anybody, in my opinion, just putting things together and just putting people on the things. But traditionally, certain people that come from that family bloodline, the true flame bloodline, have that knowledge to interpret that, to bring back those things back in. So the knowledge will kind of trickle down and continue that. Almost like Moses went to the high land kind of deal,
right,
kind of same thing.
right, right. Mississippian mound builders, Cahokia Mounds, largest ancient city. Around 1100, 1200, the largest city north of Mexico was Cahokia, sitting in what is now southern Illinois. Again, across the river, Mississippi River from St. Louis. Around 1050, and occupied through 1400, Cahokia had a peak population of 25 to 50,000. This
mm,
this source says. now a UNESCO World Heritage Site. So UNESCO, the United Nations Cultural Heritage Site designation recognizes what
Mm,
Cahokia is. It's composed of 3 boroughs, Cahokia, East St. Louis, and St. Louis, and it's connected to those boroughs. They connect via waterways and walking trails.
mm,
This is not Amsterdam we're talking about. It's not Paris. It's not
right?
Venice. This is, 1,000 years ago,
Wow.
in Southern Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so the walking trails extended across the Mississippi River floodplain for some 20 kilometers. Its population consisted of agriculturalists who grew large amounts of maize, craft specialists who made beautiful pots, shell jewelry, arrow points, and flint clay
Mm,
figurines. Just shows you a
mm,
little bit of the floodplain.
Mm.
It's incredible. So what they're doing is they're finding ways to cross the river,
mm,
right, and connect. This is Cahokia. There's East St. Louis. There's St. Louis. They're finding ways to stay connected, through riverways and walking paths. Just amazing.
Yeah, it's really how today they had those little, they call what do you call those steamboats, whatever. But we didn't have steamboats. We just had that canoe, but also there's technology where it just kind of floats just with the natural,
Mm-hmm.
and also with that walking on it stimulates the growth for the food underneath that's in the
Mm.
water. At the same
Mm-hmm.
time,
mm-hmm.
walking. So we're all. Today's technology is technology where they magnets, all that stuff, light, but that kind of same principle helps to grow the food and stay
Mm,
stronger. But the roots will start connecting, you know.
Right. Right. Um.
But that's beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Uh. Maria, who?
yeah.
Dell or somebody.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
good. Go
Mississippi,
ahead,
Mound
Sal.
Builders, Tokyo, largest city in North America. In 1982, the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, UNESCO, designed Tokyo Mounds outside of St. Louis as a World Heritage Site for its importance to the understanding of prehistory of North America. This Mississippian city boasted a 14th century population of 20,000 people, more than London at that time. Other Native American World Heritage Sites included Chaco Canyon, Taos Pebble, yep, Mesa, yep, Verde, yet even with the protection of the United Nations, all terrain vehicles, ATVs have cut deep, yep, and many of the mounds as Chokia, the Illinois Historic Preservation Agency states, they have withstood 1,000 years of 4 seasons, but they can't stand up to forward wheeling.
Mm-hmm.
And again, the modern ill things that to do to a
Mm-hmm.
Mother Earth, and just
Absolutely right.
and then to
Mm-hmm.
help that, because right now it's kind of sad, like you said, a political, that's fine and dandy, but again, the long-term effect here, you're messing up that trail.
Mm-hmm.
Where I come from, they cut all the trees down now. What we call green grass used to have everything you need for a ceremony. Now they took because the sun dancers, all those sun dancers and people, similar people didn't plant back into the ground. What our family been saying for years, plant a tree, plant that sage back in there.
Mm-hmm.
Now there's
Mm-hmm.
nothing there. Now there's cows around there, which is you have to go Canada. You got to go all the way to California or go to Maine just to get to certain type of herbs, and that's sad.
It's sad, and if you think about that, Cahokia was bigger than London
Yeah.
at that time, and we all know about London. We all read about that history, but why do we not know about this? And UNESCO says it's a World Heritage Site, but that means we have to protect it,
Yeah,
right?
yes, we have to. Yeah, that's so again, PAZA and some other preservation officers that are really truly dedicated will show up and share the knowledge, but also protect it best way they can through
Right.
ceremonial prayer, or actually start like how we're doing now, start bringing awareness, because that
Awareness.
predates everything what you so call United States America, Columbus. I mean, everybody across the board.
All
So
of
there's
it.
no such thing as
That's right. It
laws.
does
There's
predate
no nothing.
Columbus.
So this is where we have a DNA back to this, because with you don't have no land, then you don't have no say.
Mm.
We have the land, and we bring and peace and harmony. Of course, this is where who we are.
And just because you can drive a four-wheel and all-terrain on across Mesa Verde or what Taos doesn't mean you should.
Yes.
You
No,
don't just because you can destroy doesn't mean you should.
No,
Mm.
because there's time to do that. Just like our brother Blaine from Kansas, there's certain areas that he goes. They move cattle through there. They move buffalo through there. They're driving their trucks. They're driving their little motorcycles, bikes, whatever. So when he goes back, it spits up. You're first of all, they're destroying the natural way it is, but they're digging up, spitting those things out. So you find those shards of different
Mhm.
things that are traditionally native artifacts.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's
Well, I'm glad we're doing this to kind of raise awareness. And so
Yes.
it is, if you visit, it is a World Heritage Site.
Mm.
We have a couple in the United States. This one is significant. Some estimates 20, some estimates 50,000, whatever. It's larger than London. It's just almost inconceivable how
Mm.
big Cahokia was, and how big the mound system is,
Mm.
and how many hundreds of years. White settlers have been here about 400 years, and we've really changed a lot. But they lived in harmony.
yeah. The funny thing is that they keep on asking us for peace and harmony, and keep on asking, okay, what can we do? Well, stop it.
Right. Stop
Stop
tearing.
doing the damage, please stop.
Stop tearing up there. I thought we finished with some mounds to visit. We just to
Mm.
note that we just wanted to focus today on the Mississippian culture because it the latest and kind of the largest. But the Hopewell Nadina would be happy to talk about.
Mhm.
There are so many beautiful mounds for you to visit and pay tribute to and support.
Mm.
And please contact Dallum and Maria
Mhm.
if you want to organize a tour,
Mhm.
if you want to, if you want to go with them, or if you just want a recommendation. So we just focused on 3 others today, but there's many, many more. The first is Poverty Point, Louisiana.
Mm.
Mm.
Um,
Prime example. That's beautiful.
it is
Yep.
beautiful. It is. Dell, you want to read for us?
Yeah, okay. In a series of raised eastern mounts, channels, and ridges made by human hands more than 3,400 years ago, back then it was a thriving metropolis. Up to 5,000 people situated on the banks of Mississippi River, tributary called Bayou Macon. Poverty Point was a hub of commerce in the Mississippi River Valley where men and women traded items that came from hundreds of miles away, all without the convenience of modern travel. Yep.
Mm.
And it's still that way today, and modern sense.
So 3,400, this is before the Mississippian culture.
Mhm.
3,400 years ago, in North America. I mean, I
Mhm.
think that the idea is history starts, at Plymouth Rock. And it's just such
So
No,
true.
that
a
yeah.
horribly ignorant,
Yes.
misinformed, terrible thing
Mm,
to start history at Plymouth Rock.
mm.
And this
Um,
this proves that it was existing long before.
Right, or with DeSoto, or with any
Right.
of it. I mean, 3,400 years ago, and 5,000 people trading and traveling and, flourishing.
Yep.
So that's Poverty Point, Louisiana. The next one is closer to you guys, Hopewell.
Yep, this is where we seen this actually. I think we drove by it a couple of times, but we actually definitely got to sit down and look. I need to take
Do a
PAZA team over
ceremony.
there. Yeah.
Mhm.
Maria, want to read for us?
Mounds to visit: Hopewell Ceremonial Earthworks, Newark Earthworks Center, Ohio. The Hopewell Ceremonial Earthworks share certain characteristics with other monumental sites, but substantially from Earth, such as Poverty Point, Cahokia Mounds,
Effigy mounds.
Effigy Mounds, National Monument, Amazonian geoglyphics, Stonehenge, Avebury, and associated sites, but they are unique in their combination of vast scale, geometrical precision, incorporation of astronomical
Astronomical.
astronomical
I
alignments
love it. I
and
love it.
broad geography distribution. To
Mhm.
have accomplished this with a predominantly hunting and gathering economy, only supplemented by a suite of locally domesticated plants and with the fundamentally
Egalitarian.
egalitarian society is unprecedented in world history.
So here again, we've got harmony. Egalitarian, everyone,
Yeah.
people are equal.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are chiefdoms in Mississippi,
Mhm.
but there's really no, I mean,
Yeah.
look at European history and it's just carnage and war and
Yeah.
Inquisition and, but bloody battles. But the Hopewell site says, well, these people lived in pretty amazing harmony and not with
Mhm.
with not a lot either. The
Mhm.
astronomical alignments of the stars and solstice and
Yeah.
Yeah, if you take a eye view on those different locations, you can see it. And also if you South American relatives of ours down south in Mexico, or New Mexico they call it, or Mexico, all the way up, that all similar, it's all together. So if you put them all together, everything lines up.
it's awesome. The repetition of monumental earthwork forms a large area built to a similar scale using a common unit of measure and incorporating similar series of astronomical alignments into that architecture demonstrates a level of integration between otherwise disparate cultural groups. It's unexpected, and unprecedented for societies with more complex social organizations. This cultural integration was reinforced by an interregional network of raw material acquisition, so trade and craft production, emphasizing a shared iconography. These earthworks, as a set, bear witness to a remarkable, non-urban, non-hierarchical, so no chiefdoms, no, just everybody's the same, civilization that persisted for 3 to 4 centuries and exerted an influence that extended across much of eastern North America. These ancient Ohio monuments are the largest earthworks in the world that are not fortifications or defense structures. Together, these earthwork sites present the climax of the woodland period culture of Northern America. Their extraordinary size, beauty, and precision, and they do keep bringing up the precision of these mounds at Hopewell, make them outstanding examples of architectural form, landscape design, and human creative genius worthy of inscription on the UNESCO World Heritage List. Unlike Cahokia, Hopewell is not a World Heritage Site, which is a shame and an oversight. So that's our second Hopewell. Our third and our last is Effigy Mounds in Iowa. You want to read for us, Del?
The mounds preserved here are considered sacred by many Americans. Yep, especially the monuments of 20 culturally associated American Indian tribes. A visit offers opportunities to contemplate the meaning of the mounds and the people who built them. The 200 plus American Indian mounds are located in one of the most picturesque sections of upper Mississippi River Valley.
So Effigy Mound, Harper's Ferry, Iowa. This is a shot, just early morning shot. I just looked at a couple of photographs. It's absolutely gorgeous, Effigy Mounds. This is another shot, kind of like a twilight. Marie, you want to read for us?
The mounds preserved here are considered sacred by many Americans, especially the monuments 20 culturally associated American Indian tribes. A visit offers opportunity to contemplate the meanings of the mounds and the people who built them. The 200 plus American Indian mounds are located in one of the most picturesque sections of the, upper Mississippi River Valley.
Yeah, that was repeated. And that was on me. My fault. That's
Also,
on me.
the late woodland period, 1400, 750 BP, along the upper Mississippi River, extending east to Lake Michigan, associated. Oh,
Sorry, Dale.
associated with the culture known today as the effigy mound builders. The construction of effigy mounds was a regional cultural phenomenon. Mounds of earth in the shapes of birds, bear, deer, bison, lynx, turtle, panther, water spirit are the most common images, like early groups. The effigy mound builders continued to build comical mounds for burial purposes, but their burial sites lacked the trade goods of the preceding middle woodland culture. The effigy mound builders also built linear or long particular mounds that were used for similar purposes to remain a mystery. Some archaeologists believe they were built to mark celestial events or seasonal observations. Others speculate they were constructed as territorial markers or as boundaries between groups. The animal-shaped mounds were named a symbol of the effigy mounds culture along the Mississippi River and northeast Iowa and Cross River, the northwest Wisconsin. Two major animal mound shapes seem to prevail: the bear and the bird. Near lakes, Michigan and Winnebago. Water spirit earthworks, historically called the turtle and panther mounds, are more common.
So now we're getting closer to my area.
Mm,
Southern Wisconsin, but
Yeah,
upper Mississippi Valley, the effigy
mm,
mounds. And it's the first time well, not the first time, but so now the mounds are in the shapes of animals.
mm,
Um, right, the bird and the bear, and then the panther and the turtle, the Winnebago, um, you know, that's also my area close by. The range of the effigy mound culture, Delk, you want to read again?
yeah, the effigy mound culture extended from Dubuque, Iowa. Yep, you've been there. North into southeast Minnesota, across southern Wisconsin from the Mississippi to Lake Michigan, and along the Wisconsin-Illinois boundary of the counties of Dubuque, Clayton, and Alchemy contain almost all the effigy mounds found in Iowa.
So it's multi-state,
mhm,
multi-tribal, and the part of the connection is the Mississippi River, but that's not all the connection.
mm.
What do the effigy mounds represent, Maria?
Clues can be found in American Indian legends and mythology, and to a lesser extent, scientific research. The stories and legends of the Native Americans whose ancestors built the mounds describe the effigy mounds as ceremonial and sacred sites. Archaeologists believe the effigy mounds
Delineated.
delineated territories of choice gathering and hunting grounds. Unfortunately, much of the data is inconclusive.
Well, Adele's already told us the
Yeah.
answer.
Mm.
It's funny. We just need to talk to the Native
Yeah.
American tribes. It's like
What?
when they say it's a mystery what happened to the Anasazi, but we don't know why
Yeah.
they used it. You just
What-
need to talk to a.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, they're still there. They're still there. It's just that we're not associated or honored that such way, due to the colonial ways of life, I guess, of destroying things in their path, basically.
Yeah, we just need to have a conversation with the people who care.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Absolutely.
I don't know if you can. The sign is at the effigy mounds. I love this sign, but we asked. Go ahead.
Yeah,
You
go ahead.
want to
I'm
read
sorry. Go
it?
ahead. Go ahead. Read it. You read
We
it.
ask that as you walk over this land to please remember this is sacred
Mm.
ground to those of the mound building culture. The descendants of this culture are not a lost people,
Mm.
but rather living, thriving American Indian cultures that today reside in what is now called the Midwest. These native descendants continue to
Yeah.
honor their ancestors buried here in religious ceremonies on these sacred sites. Please enjoy and respect your time among the old ones, as their
Mm.
spirits will watch over you while you are here. That's Cloris Lowe Ho Chunk. That's a
Wow.
Wisconsin tribe, 2005. Welcome to your outdoor museum. Please enjoy everything that is here. Remember, there is no collecting of anything. Yeah, don't go and pillage effigy mounds. Everything everything at the sacred site was left by those who were here before us. Please leave it as you found it for the enjoyment of those who come.
That's beautiful.
It is beautiful. I love.
Mm,
I give the Park Service credit for
I do too. That's
putting
beautiful.
that up. You
And
know.
see that picture right there? It says, just go, there's a white buffalo on there. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Continue on. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
You're right about that.
Mm-hmm.
Dell, you want to read the tribes associated?
Yes. Mounds National Mountain include Iowa tribe of Kansas, Nebraska, Iowa tribe of Oklahoma, the Oto, Missouri tribes and Indians, Ho Chunk Nation of Wisconsin, Winnebago tribe of Nebraska, Upper Sioux Indian Community of Minnesota, Shakopee, Wahpeton, Sioux Community, State of Minnesota, or Minnesota, Lower Sioux Indian Community of Minnesota, Prairie Island Indian Community in the state of Minnesota, Sac and Fox of Mississippi and Iowa, Sac and Fox Nation of Missouri and Kansas and Nebraska, Sac and Fox Nation of Oklahoma, Crow Creek Sioux of South Dakota, Omaha Tribe of Nebraska, Santee Sioux Nation, Standing Rock Sioux Tribe, Yankton Sioux of South Dakota, Sissatwan, Wahpeton, Yate, Flanju Santee Sioux Tribe, Ponca Tribe of Nebraska.
Love it. Thank
All,
you. That was beautiful.
all these are right. It was. All these are
Mm.
associated with the effigy mounds. Just absolutely beautiful.
Mm.
The shots and again, we're just so lucky here to
Yeah.
have. And these are just 3 sites plus Cahokia that we've talked about today.
Mhm.
We offer some resources if you're interested. So
Mhm.
the National Park Service has a lovely website on Mississippian culture. You can start your kind of journey or path understanding the Mississippians there. Also, Dell mentioned about the destruction. So there's been a lot of both willful and conscious and also unconscious destruction of these histories, of these sacred sites. One of them recently, there's a golf course leased on a mound system, what's been called the Native American Stonehenge.
Mhm.
This is from the New York Times last year. So interesting reading, but
Mm.
you know, if you have a mound system in your area and you can volunteer and or fight for or in any way be involved for the preservation, that would be a
Yeah.
good thing. That would be a really good thing. This is Effigy Mounds Sacred Space, also National Park Service site. This is Effigy Mounds in winter.
Mm.
And then this is from the fire point, a shot from the fire point. Just gorgeous.
It is.
Yeah. Again, we're looking at the Mississippi, the Great River. And then, yeah, the Leonard Nimoy special is also a great place to start the A&E Ancient Mysteries
Mm.
with the acknowledgement of the myth that mounds were not built by
Mm.
Native Americans, and also the damage that has been done by art collectors and outdoor enthusiasts, and you know, and other things and people and sources and whatever.
Mm.
So just some resources. That's I've already done that. Also, Turtle. We didn't talk about Turtle Mound, but there's a beautiful children's book. We will remember Turtle Mound by Susie Caffrey and Diane Eskew.
Yeah, that was the place was blocked off when I was down there. By the way,
Yeah.
they blocked it off because
From the rains.
Mm.
and it's a little tiny place too. It's just beautiful, but we have to get down there at some point.
We have to get down there.
Mhm.
So we PAZA and Maria and Dal, we've been talking, and this is how you find out more about PAZA, Tree of Life, which is their creation, and more about Hahakmo Mato, our leader, who is a healer and medicine man and cultural ambassador. And this is how you can contact Maria Ordell, positry@gmail.com. If you've enjoyed this and like to see other videos or would like to contact PAZA about how you can help get involved, not just with Native American preservation, history preservation, but how else can they help?
Just everything that they can imaginably think of it through a prayer or just get involved so we can come together to bring that healing and harmony together and live this of now and to the future together.
Mm. And you guys will be doing some traveling this summer.
I'm crossing my fingers. Yes.
Yeah.
I hope we are.
And so if people were interested in being part of that, return to Little Bighorn, and anything else that you're doing, experiencing Devil's Tower through a Native American perspective, they should contact you. Yeah.
Yes, we're going to every sites of throughout the nations because there's no I can see that right now there's nobody interpreting or trying to be that component for the people and then the native component. So I'm as the CEO of PAZA or the guide, I guess I'll call myself, an interpreter for that. We're just taping up and just being that bridge across, just kind of whatever's there to be that bridge. And we can go to any section of what we call Turtle Island, from North Pole to South Pole, and discuss those matters or guide you in those such ways or introduce you to those sacred places, but also tell you the history and how it means today and in the future, how we can preserve that and then continue together as one happy family.
It's a really important, beautiful thing in a time when we need something like hope in a way. Yeah.
Yeah, because those places will change you. If you just go to the redwoods,
Yes,
you
they
go
will.
to
Yes, they
Northridge, you
will.
see the totem pole because that's a whole different type of you go in the Midwest, you know, the jailbreak country where the dream catcher comes from. You go down south where the certain things come from. The down northwest, southwest, same thing. Where you can't just lump us all together because they're so distinct, different nations. They're not the same people. We're different nations. We're related, but we're all different nations.
And I think part of the healing that we can offer today, and we'll let Adele close us with a prayer, is that just the acknowledgement that history doesn't begin at Plymouth Rock. It begins thousands of years ago with cultures that flourished, and we are on their land. We're on their land. They traded. They lived in harmony. They found ways to survive winters without cell phones and trucks. And they honored Mother Earth. And PAZA is dedicated to bringing back and bringing awareness to indigenous ways in history. So if you don't think, if you're Caucasian like me and you don't think you can help, I can tell you that this presentation, the ways that I have found to help have been an honor, and there are ways you can help. They always need sponsors, they always need extra hands, voices. They need people. All you need to say is, hey, I want to really understand Chaco Canyon, right? Or Canyon de Chelly. Can you organize a trip and make it happen? We can build this bridge as whites. We can build this bridge. The Hopi prophecy says, we can do this. We can go down one way, and it's not a good way. We seem to be heading that way. Or we can we can honor and listen and connect and be brothers and sisters.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because Mother Earth is talking to all of us in a good way, good and bad, and she's taking back in that such way. If you don't respect her, just like our mothers in the womb, you come and born, you respect your mother. That's what you're kind of doing.
Yeah.
So the mother's like, okay, I'm just gonna bring it back. I'm taking all the medicines and I'm just gonna sink it, whatever, because there's nothing sustaining that. So without a bridge, you can't hold each other. So right now we're like this, but if we're together, then we're holding each other to make that bridge.
You want to finish us with a prayer?
Oh yeah.
Or did anything we didn't mention?
No, you did
Oh,
good.
Okay.
Pretty good.
All right.
Oh, she my lad lo, banka tanka edo, hey ya, hey ya, hey ha, hey ya, hey ha, hey ha, hey ha. Madaka be, ha madaka say. Oh.
Jim McWish, everyone.